attendees joining as we speak. We'll immediately start when a lot of them who are waiting will join us soon. Please bear with us for some time. Shall we start? Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. Thank you for taking out time, and we really appreciate your presence at the webinar. Today's webinar is going to be a very interesting session with two eminent personalities from Anand joining us for the webinar today. We are going to be talking about career opportunities in the design domain at what Anand has to offer in design for each one of you. A lot of you who've joined us today have applied at Anand or are in the process of applying at Anand, and would be very interested to know what we have, know what career opportunities are there for you in the design domain. You have also sent a list of your questions, and I will be addressing them during the course of the webinar. However, if you still have questions, and if you've not addressed your questions in the registration form, please feel free to send your questions in the chat box, and our admissions team, will be happy to address those concerns for you. I'd like to start the webinar today by introducing our speakers for the day. We have Dr. Ajit Nigam, who is a professor, School of Creative Practices and Entrepreneurship, and he's also in charge of the Graduate Education Support Office. Dr. Nigam has held prominent positions in reputed institutions, including being a general manager of entrepreneurship at XLRI, CEO of the NIFT Foundation for Design Innovation. He has also been an academic with multiple organizations and educational institutions, and has years of experience in business development in information technology across health, telecom, and power. Dr. Nigam, thank you so much for your presence today, and we welcome you to the webinar.
Good evening, Apurva, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Would be happy to talk to you, and any questions, we're there to support you.
Our second speaker for the day is Vishal Bipin Shah. Vishal is the Director, Career Services, he's the Director, Career Services Office at Anand. And he brings with him 2 decades of experience in education, hospitality, and FMCG. His expertise lies in product development, brand leadership, corporate relationship management, and core operational strategy. At Anand, Vishal focuses on strengthening the career services ecosystem by integrating early student engagement, industry outreach and collaboration, data-driven processes, and structured career preparedness programs. Thank you, Vishal, for your time today, and we welcome you to the webinar.
Thank you, Apurva, and good evening to everyone. Looking forward to interacting with you.
So we'll start the discussion today. So both Ajit and Vishal, I mean, my understanding of design, and I will put that forward before to both of you to just give me a nod that what I speak is right. Design domains, especially, we have seen in the past that there are 3 outcomes after studying design, especially the bachelor's or the master's program, where the students can branch out to. One, the student has an option of getting into a job, which is a placement, which is, Vishal, what you look into. And alternatively, a lot of design students also want to go overseas to study. And Dr. Nigam, you handle that piece for the institution. And a third piece is also where a lot of students say, okay, I will work for a few years and then decide to become an entrepreneur and start my own firm. So these are three diverse branches that students really foray into after they study design. Am I right on saying this?
No, that's correct.
Yeah. So great. So on that note, we'll start with Vishal. Vishal, your career services offices, it'll be interesting for us to understand what does the office actually do and how does it assist the students?
So thank you, Apurva. And as you rightly said, design students are not aligned to a particular career pathway. You know, they tend to take different career pathways. And at Anant, we look at it from a lens of trident. We call it as a lens of trident, wherein we support students on all the three career pathways, whether they want to take up an higher education, whether they want to go in for a job, or they want to build their career as an entrepreneur. You know, and all three supports starts early in their journey at the university. So, you know, it's not a last year activity that we do at Anant. This journey engagement starts as soon as they are in their second year. It's the hand holding activity that we do at Anant, wherein, you know, career services office gets in touch with students, try to understand what are their career pathways, their aspirations, and what they want to do. Because we believe that, you know, hand holding from the right time is important, because then they can build their portfolio, build their plans over another 2 years and be there where they want to be as the start of their career. So that's where the intervention from career service office comes in. We start engaging with them from their second year onwards, support them in their preparation, give them perspective of how they can achieve either of the career pathways they want to, and then eventually one of us, you know, starts handholding them towards their direction of career.
Good. So basically, if I have to say, from the time the student steps onto campus till the student passes out of the campus, your office guides and, you know,
Yes.
directs the student, handholds the student to on how to prepare themselves for a career going forward once they step into the professional world. Is
You know,
that right?
they are just out of school, Apurva. और बच्चे स्कूल से बाहर आए हैं एंड 2 साल वो बहुत मेहनत कर रहे हैं. 10th 11th 12th 3 साल लग के उन्होंने मेहनत की है, एंड देन दे आर स्ट्रेट इनटू द कॉलेज सेटअप.
True.
फर्स्ट
Anji.
ईयर इज फाउंडेशन एट अनंत, एज वी ऑल नो, जहाँ पे बच्चों को बहुत सारे पर्सपेक्टिव से इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाता है. सेकेंड ईयर इज द टाइम जब वो शेप करना शुरू करते हैं, और दैट्स द टाइम, वो समय है जब वी कम as an individual team members together and, you know, start hand holding them, क्योंकि उन्हें शेप देना बहुत जरूरी है एक you know, better outcome के लिए, उनके करियर के better start के लिए.
Agreed. Ajit, my next question to you would be, students, a lot of times students after the undergraduate degree khatam karne ke baad, a lot of people think about higher education and they want to go either in the country, within the country, or they want to go overseas for higher education. What are the key things that the student should keep in mind to understand whether he should be going in for a higher education immediately, or should he work for a few years and then go in for a higher education space?
Apurva, very relevant question. Let me answer it this way, that for a student to take a decision on this is not a one-point activity. It is a process in itself. So what at Anand's we are doing, we have created a life cycle. When a student joins in, we start with something called the awareness program, in which no questions asked, get exposed to what is happening around the world. Okay, in the space of higher education, as far as masters in design of various components are concerned, the faculty helps you deep dive into an area, product design, communication design, and all those elements. Then after some time, having learned this, we reach a stage called the exploration stage. And during the exploration stage, you sit down with the faculty member or even with the JSO office, and then you realize, okay, that you know what, there are these 20, 30 options. My area of interest is in this. And the offerings are in, say, 12 countries. So now we need to map the area of interest and the country of interest for the student. And that is not an easy task. The student also has to look at what does he or she wants to achieve over long term. And by the term long term, I mean is this. What happens post a master's is also equally important to us for you to help you in the pathway. It's not just getting into higher education. We also need to look at once you pass out, what kind of options are available to you? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to join a job eventually? And this requires you to think now. Regulations world over are changing. There is a concept of, I'm sure once we get into one-on-one with each student, do you really want to look at permanent residency? You want to look at those are things which have to be decided now. What kind of languages you want to pursue? For example, if you're aiming at a product design and you want to do it in Germany, doesn't it make prudent sense that you start learning German language? Okay, how do you do that? So those kind of exercises are part of exploration. After awareness and exploration, we get into a stage, then we help them start drafting their SOPs, statement of purposes. They also, in the meantime, work with their faculty to create portfolios. These portfolios have to be evaluated. Okay, the IELTS examination has to be given now, because which is almost mandatory in certain cases. Very interesting is while we are having this conversation, we have the IDP team, which is the team which manages the IELTS examination throughout the country on campus. And
Lovely.
yes, the examining body is there on campus, and they are helping the students to understand what are the steps they need to take if they want to score a higher band across the 4 different areas. Then after that comes a stage when the application process starts. Please remember, the organization is not somebody who would help you and ensure that you get admitted in the university. Our role is primarily advisory, look at pathways, help you understand that. Okay, and help you take a informed decision, data driven decisions. So when we do all this and we look at your own interest and say if this is really an opportunity for you, and we move from that perspective, this helps create a complete ecosystem and helps you to differentiate yourself in the market and reach the relevant universities, scholarships, funding opportunities. It's a lot of money which goes in. So we also get into this one-on-one discussion with the student, trying to figure out, okay, fine, is finance a challenge? Then please do not look at country one where the expense is high. Look at country two, and you take a different path of going there. So that's an individual one-to-one relationships with staff. So that's a process which we tend to follow.
So basically, through the entire process of getting an admission into their institute of choice, which is overseas, you guide them through it. Completely, from the SOP writing to how should they approach the scholarships, how should they work out the admission form. You take them through it. Of course, we cannot guarantee an admission there. That all depends on how well the student performs in the entire process. But I'm sure the guidance itself is so valuable that most students must be making it through.
Yes, I mean that is true, and this is one-to-one. So people come spend an hour with me on one-to-one basis, and have the opportunity of living on the campus. So while I'm roaming in the campus, there are guys who stalk me at 8 o'clock in the night. He says, "Okay, can we have a conversation?" Yes, we can have a conversation. Our job is to facilitate this, and in an environment which is non-structured also. There are times you don't want to go through a structured process. Come have a cup of tea and let's have a conversation.
True, very true. That's absolutely a wonderful approach. A lot of times, students feel more comfortable when you go through an unstructured approach and to at least vent out their fears and their, misconceptions about studying overseas. Vishal, my next question would be to you. A lot of people have asked us this question through the registration form to understand what are the kind of companies that usually come on the Anant campus, and where do our students get placed? What is the kind of companies? If you can name a few, it will be helpful for all of us.
Oh, great. Yeah. So, it's very important because from a student's lens, it is important that they should know what are the kind of career paths available, what are the kind of organizations they can work in, and what are the industry segments that they can contribute to. And I'll surely be naming few companies that comes to the campus on a regular basis, and there are more companies that have expressed their interest over the last couple of years to collaborate with Anant. It's evolving. So, students go in variety of industry from consultancy to manufacturing to design studios to advertising companies. There's a huge spectrum of organizations that hire designers. Now, design is not just a niche program it used to be earlier. It has come into the mainstream. Every organization has a requirement of a designer. Designers have moved from silos to boardrooms, as we say at Anant, that they are no more are a department in silos in an organization, but they have now started representing in the boardrooms. They are part of our global decision-making team. So hence, every organization has a need of designer. Just to give some idea on to kind of organizations that comes to Anant is, consultancy firms like Accenture, Wipro, Cognizant, they come to Anant. Technology firms like Arise, IQM, they come to the campus. Small studios or a specific niche area operating studios come to the campus and take our students. So there's a huge set of organizations that come to the campus and they hire design students. Samsung, Future Factory, Godrej. These are the kind of organizations which has expressed their interest in hiring design students. So the list is enormous that come to the campus and variety of fields where the student goes and work. So, over a period of 3 years, 4 years that they are on the campus, we handhold them and we guide them into a particular direction.
Thank you for that answer. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to become boardroom designers, you have to meet Vishal on campus. That is very important.
And not only that, Apurva, in today's time, design, we generally think that, it's about product design, it's about UI, UX, and there are few names that comes on the top slot for people, that fashion and textile design, animation. But world has moved beyond that. So design students are not only impacting a particular design stream, but they are impacting the overall culture of the organization. One has to also look at from that lens. So they are a very important contributor in developing the overall structure of the organization, a design of the organization which is more effective and efficient. Social impact sector, जो लोग एक सोशल इम्पैक्ट सेक्टर में काम करना चाहते हैं, जो कुछ कंट्री को, वर्ल्ड को कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हैं, कुछ चेंज लाना चाहते हैं दुनिया में, उनके लिए भी डिजाइन एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट फील्ड है, बिकॉज दैट्स द वे टू गेट इनटू एन सोशल इम्पैक्ट सेक्टर. So we have organizations like Teach for India that comes to the campus and hire our students. So there are UN-based organization, UNESCO, Youth Alliances that comes to the campus and hire students. We work with Kamla Cafe that comes to the campus and hire the students at a design level. So these are some very, very strategic roles that design students takes up.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, visual articulation of any organization strategy is the core thing which a designer does in his own specialized area of work.
Yeah. So putting in nutshell, if I have to put it in industry segmentation for a better understanding than just name, it is IT, ITs, consultancy and tech companies that at tech specifically that comes to the campus, manufacturing, engineering and green tech. is the industry segment. Then we have advertising, communication, and marketing organizations, NGO, government organizations, education organizations like IIT Gandhinagar, Ashoka University, architect and interior designing, obviously, because we also have space design and architecture as a program at Anand National University. Fashion designing firms and fashion studios come to the campus, and then the design studios, which is typically a design studio.
That's very
Let me
helpful.
just pick up the thread what Vishal is talking about. Initially, design used to be more object oriented, which means you have people used to think design is something, okay, I'm going to do a fashion design. And today it has moved from object to systems. And today design is actually becoming that important that they are creating huge changes in the country. And I'm going to link with what is known as the orange economy. And when we talk about orange economy, we're talking of a huge number of sectors around that. And if you would have looked at the budget speech this year, and when we're linking it to the concept of Viksit Bharat, the need for a change, and this need for a change happens through a design thinking process. So initially, you used to think, okay, design means, okay, we are doing some sketching, something, but we have moved from that object stage to process, and it is a now a higher management skill. Thereby, what Vishal said, I'm just adding to what he said, that it has moved the designer from somebody who's just doing something at the bottom level to somebody who's at the boardroom level, and that's how things are changing. And using technology integrated with this is something which is the future, and which is what these guys will learn over a period of time.
So important, Ajit, for something like this. When you say this, even tomorrow, if a student decides to become an entrepreneur, and he has to understand strategy not just from a thought process point of view, and it has to be also articulation of the strategy. So I think not just for a person who's working with an organization, but also for somebody who starts up on his own, builds a startup. Being a designer is one of the biggest assets he can actually give to himself.
Yeah, it's a kind of a life skill.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a life skill. So true, so true. I have a question for Ajit here. Ajit, we have the Aramb Incubation Center. For people who are budding entrepreneurs who want to get into entrepreneurship, or people students who are thinking कि मैं कुछ साल काम करूंगा, experience लूंगा, उसके बाद लूंगी, whatever, and then I will move into the entrepreneurship space and I have a business idea. At what stage, when is the right time to start thinking about building a venture? That is a question a lot of students think. Some people think it's too early. Some people, want to do it end of their education. So, I mean, let's hear it, your perspective on this.
Okay, it's actually very simple, which is the earlier you get into this, the better it is. Let's divide this into two aspects. One is entrepreneurship, second is intrapreneurship. Whether you decide to go for a job or a business of your own, the skills which you get while getting prepared for entrepreneurship as we speak, and this is where the theory which we teach at Anand, which gets into practice at the Aramb Incubation Center, both of them converge. Okay. So, for example, today's world is talking about problem solving, and which means before we can reach the level of problem solving, it is problem identification. It is these youngsters which have this beautiful knack of challenging the old. And the minute they start questioning the status quo, that is where things start changing. And when they start looking at these things from a different perspective and merging the technology element also into it, things start. Now, coming specifically to your question, when you are in your first year or in the second year, at that young age, you are irreverent. You do not care about what the system tells you. You want to question. And that is the beauty of youth. And it is this energy, okay, with challenges. And this is how businesses are built. Okay. Thereby, you look at the first element. You understand at one level the depth of a particular design discipline. But then you're also looking at what is happening around you. You come into that discussions on a regular basis. Jiski, an example, Delhi mein or in Gujarat, people are not really wearing helmets. Why are they not wearing helmets? What can I do? That's a problem. How can I solve that problem? Can I integrate technology? Can I have a system in which, in case you do not put on your helmet, okay, the chip will not send a signal, okay, to the engine. Your bike will not start. Can't we think onto systems thinking like that? It is not people of senior age who think on these lines. These are ideas which are coming from youngsters. The younger they start, they play with it. Yes, things will go wrong. Absolutely. So the 4 years in the college is a beautiful playground for you to experiment. And this is a time where you can say, fine, I did it. Didn't work out. All right. Let's move on. Let me pivot. So answering that question, the earlier you start, the better it is. And the whole system, the ecosystem is there to support.
True. Interesting. Vishal, you mentioned about designers moving from the bottom silo up to the boardroom. So we're talking about boardroom designers here. So technically, we're talking about business designers here. And at what point of time do we really make our students aware during the entire placement preparation that, you know, this is what your place is, this is where your place is in an organization, in the boardroom. So how do you bring this business designers aspect into their entire mindset?
Very good question, Apurva. And in fact, very, very important question. I'll just step back to what Dr. Ajit just said. And for all the questions that we had till now, you know, idea at Anant is that we engage with students when they are young. We catch them young is what we call it on the campus. Because that's the time when we can really guide them, shape them, and make them ready for the career after the campus, after the college, irrespective of the pathway that they wish to take. So entire exercise starts taking shape when they are in their third semester. That's the orientation period, which we call it as, where we sensitize them about the three pathways that are available and beyond these three pathways. So, in today's world, gone are the days where we used to say that there is a safe job and we take one job and then life is set type of situation. Today, young generation comes with a lot of ideas. They are not confined by a boundary. They want to explore and experiment a lot of things. There's something called as portfolio careers, where a student is not just doing a job, but is also trying his hands-on entrepreneurship, trying the hands-on freelancing, doing some hobby work. So the day is divided between multiple pathways, multiple ways of building their career. And then eventually after 4 or 5 years, they pick up one particular stream and then move forward there or continue doing what they were doing. Why? This is what we sensitize them. This is what we talk to them when they are in their second year, that do not worry about what will happen. It's about how you prepare now. The outcomes are dependent on the preparation that you put in. And if in case it doesn't work, we can always help you pivot, because that's the preparation that we are doing with them right from their second year onwards. So early in the career, catching them young, giving them an insight into how it looks after you graduate, or how it looks for 10 years after your graduation. That's the sense that we give them. And what is it that is desired? So when excellence is one part of it, yes, you have to excel in the area that you are. But there's something also which is very important, which is behavioral in nature, which is discipline. It's a combination of two that makes huge difference in anybody's career pathway. Because all students study from similar faculty, same environment, same courses, but then there is a huge difference between the two outcomes. The answer to that lies in the discipline, and that is probably where we start handholding them.
Yeah. So the very interestingly, I'll just follow up on that thing, question, what your answer, Vishal. And I have Ayushi from Gaya, who's given us a very interesting asked question. Says, she writes saying that being an artist is different for everyone. But when it comes to survival. However, in this AI generation, being a designer is one of the most difficult things because designing is about creativity. So, what do you have to say to that?
Oh, well, I would say it's the best time to be in.
Okay.
AI is not a threat. Please do not take it as a threat, and it will not replace designer for a good time entirely. It is about how you embrace AI into the design. It's about how it helps you be a better designer. It helps you in a faster ideation. It helps you in automating some repetitive tasks that you do otherwise, and gives you a time to be more strategic in your thinking. A designer has to be a deep researcher. A designer has to be a strategic thinker. A designer has to be an explorer. A designer is able to solve the problem, which is a grassroots level issue within any society or economy. That's where designer comes. Designer is just not an artist. Artist is basically an expression of the design. I put it that way at times. जब
Actually,
आपने
good
कुछ सोचा ही नहीं है तो आप क्या आर्ट बनाएंगे या क्या आप इलस्ट्रेट करेंगे. So designer is a deep thinker. A designer is something who can visualize, and AI actually helps you in this area. So designers are very human centric in nature. They have a critical thinking. They are creative. They are strategic. They are empathetic by nature per se. We have seen and we have come across a lot of them. And these are the skills which will not be replaced by AI. So, in my opinion, AI is gonna, in fact, help designer be more better, be a business designer, as we were saying that they've gone into boardrooms now because the speed has increased. Just putting a quick example from one of our recent visit to a very large organization in the country and in the world. It's in the top 5 companies in the world, and we were there for a collaboration. And they said that there was a time when there were a team of 10 people working on a project for 6 months. What has happened is that the team remains 10, but with AI, now that project delivery has gone into 3 months rather than 6 months. Now that efficiency has gone up, and because of that, the designers are more in demand. And because of that, the work has improved, the work has increased, and hence more in demand. So, not to worry with AI part, it's only going to help you. You have to embrace it. In fact, it's a better time to be a designer. I'm sure Ajit also has some insight into it from a professor's angle, because he's been dealing with students on a daily basis on the course front. Ajit?
Yes, if you really look at it, the competition tomorrow will be designers who have embraced technology versus designers who have not embraced technology. And things what Vishal said, repetitive nature, all those things are taken care of by AI systems or maybe some other systems. So what the designer specifically has to be a person who is flexible and adaptable. And so if this person does not build those skills within the system, then there is a problem of losing out. Today there is AI. Tomorrow it could be bioinformatics, neural networks. Something else will come in. Okay, maybe something from outer space. Who knows? Can we predict that much? No. So what is crucial is human in the loop. So with all these elements together, the final decision making, okay, and the ability to assimilate and take decisions is important. I go back years ago to a thinker who talked about the Herbert Simon, and we talk about the concept of bounded rationality, where decisions were taken within certain boundaries. Now, with AI system, the boundaries have collapsed. The ability to take a decision is not dependent on trying to look at 2 or 3 or 20 alternatives. It could be infinite number of alternatives. You go through the data, you understand this, but the final call, okay, is what you do using the concepts of design thinking taught in a design school. Okay, a lot of engineering things can be automated. Lot of management things can be automated. But what cannot be automated is the ability to think, ability to assimilate this together, put this in a structured format for you for a particular purpose. Systems do not really look at purpose. And the purpose cannot really be defined and structured in the boundary. So the human in the loop element is something which is very important for you to understand, and that is where your core skill lies.
So true. In fact, looking at the education system and looking at how AI has got integrated into our education system, I always feel there are two. I like to, bucket them into two different buckets. One is you educate, you bring AI for education, where we understand how much of artificial intelligence can be used in our education domains. And then second is you educate for AI. So it's both AI for education and educate for AI. They are two different buckets, and I think both are very essential in today's date for every student, because times are changing so fast. The changes are happening so fast. I mean, by the time you get into get into your professional lives, there'll be other developments that happen in the technology space, and you'll have to embrace all of that as well. So,
The adaptability is going to be crucial. If a person is not flexible and adaptable,
true,
he would lose
true,
out. So thereby
true,
building
very
that
true.
as a core skill is important.
Yeah, very true. And this is not a era of generalists anymore. It's an era of specialists. You have to be a specialist in your space. And on that note, Dr. Nigam, I'd like to ask you a question on higher education. How does a student understand that, after doing his undergrad, that at which is the advanced specialization that I should pick up? So for example, if you've done your undergrad in product design, what is the specialization you should pick up after that, which will enhance your undergrad, which will give you an edge to your BDES education?
All right. So let's pick up the example of product design itself.
Hmm.
And then the same actually holds for all the design disciplines too. Uh,
Hmm.
is that one has to project forward. So, so the question is not doing a master's, but what happens post the master's, and that is what we start looking at it. For
Hmm.
example, within the product design space, and you are seeing a lot of changes happening in, say, in the aerospace area.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if the transportation and the aerospace is moving and you have an interest in that area, we start categorizing it together. So yes, my interest lies in this particular industry. We start doing a deep dive into that space. Once we do the deep dive, then if you've studied product design, we start looking at the transportation aspect of that. Then we tend to find out where all this kind of specialization occurs. We do that. Then we start looking at industry reports, and which talks about projections, how this particular industry is expected to grow in 2030, 35, 40. Then
Hmm.
we, after that, we do something which is known as backcasting. So we look at, okay, if these are the things which are projected to be in the future, let's look at what is happening now. And can I align myself to that projected future? Now, this will ensure the higher probability of success. We cannot make a statement that everything else can be nullified. There will always be certain risks. But the idea is to minimize the risk as much as possible by going through an informed decision-making process. In order to do this, it is not just you are having a discussion with us. The students are exposed to multiple industries through industry visits. Experts come in on the campus, you have a conversation with them. Then we have also started a system. Then you can now, through the GESO, this office, you can reach out to faculty members of a different university, have a conversation with them. So we would facilitate this for you so that you can take an informed decision. I understand this is a very difficult question to answer. Just about an hour ago, there was a young graduating batch student. We were having a discussion for last about an hour or so. He wanted to get into the area of game design, but the question is game design related to which industry? It would change. Okay, so he wanted to do product design, game design together. Then we were looking at what kind of industry, where the industry is moving forward. So putting it all together, then you also try to figure out where economic activity is happening. Because end of the day, after the masters, are you looking for a job? Or are you going to start a business? Yeah, the master's program helps you get the expertise, gets you the network. That network is so relevant in today's world, and that's how you start looking at things. We have conversations with people who are already in those universities, and that also helps you to make that decision.
True. Vishal, I have somebody from Pune, Pranshi Srivastav from Pune, asking a very relevant question, and I think a lot of parents and students who've joined us today will want to answers to this. So Pranshi asks that after paying around 40 lakhs of approximate 40 lakhs of fees, what is will the placement or the job I get will be worth the amount of money that I have spent on my education?
Thank you, Pranshi. And probably a relevant doubt. Everybody has this, that, spending on education, how it will shape me up and what happens after that. Because yes, there is money involved, and wherever the money is involved, there is a question on what's the return. I would answer this in a little different fashion, in the sense that not a straight line answer to this question in terms of, okay, this will happen in this much time. The answer is that money is spent on education. How and what education you are getting and what is it that we are imparting, that builds and stays with you for the rest of your life. And that is the investment that one does for their lifelong career. Now, getting onto a job, in a span of few years, student reaches to a level where they, want to and aspire to, and eventually start making, success and, I would say, salaries that they desire to. In any educational system, the investment that you do, it starts producing results once you are there in the industry. The first initial after undergraduate 1 or 2 years is time when you start shaping up yourself, start understanding what is it that you want to do, how you apply your education. Most of the times that we have seen that after a year or two, students wants to take up a higher education pathways, because now they have identified the track that they want to be in. And once you do that, that right justification that comes in, as Dr. Ajit was also mentioning and Apurva asked earlier, that it is very important also to do a job after undergraduation, if in case you are extremely confused and you don't know what stream and the path you want to take. So one, that exposure comes in. Once you are guided to a particular direction, eventually in a short run or a time in few years, you start getting returns of the investment that you have done. So one need not to worry on that part. One should focus on the kind of education that they are getting, the kind of handholding they are getting into any particular university, is of very important. It's paramount.
And I also think the quality of faculty who are going to be teaching
Correct.
will
Yeah.
be
So that's the education, because
yes.
as Dr. Nigam was mentioning, we have faculties representing from so many countries in the world. The students get right there an exposure to interact with them. Aram Incubation Center, we are associated with so many industrial, organizations and government organizations where you get an exposure if in case you want to start something on your own. And job placement, CSO, we are associated with a lot of organizations where you do internships, you do your projects, you get into a live projects, live action projects, you get into your job, which is a right start to your career. We ensure that you do not have a career beginning trauma, as we call it, because once you step into a wrong career at the beginning or a wrong platform, probably to take a U-turn, it's pretty hard and it's pretty long. So idea is that all that guidance happens over a period of 2-3 years, and the results are definitely a better outcome of that activity.
Yeah, and I think also yes, please. Yes.
Let me
Ajit.
also just add a point there. You should not look at education from a pure, I've put in this money and this is what I get. Okay. This is not quarter on quarters. Okay. Iske results aa gaye, I put in this capital. No. There is something called the learning curve. Learning curve is a long-term activity which builds the base for you for your success over a period of time. And then if this base was not there, okay, you wouldn't be able to reach that path. And the university helps you build that base. And based on these strengths of this base, you are in a position to take those next steps. If you've not done this, let's assuming this, would you be in a position to reach there? Okay. Would you be in a position prepared to take a fantastic opportunity which has just come to you? Example, suddenly you realize the country is moving forward and there is a beautiful contract which comes your way, and you decide, you know what, I can do this. This is what, and you start a venture. Okay, or if you're not starting a venture, you take the leadership role and take your company where you're working to a different path. Your growth changes, the trajectory changes. You should look from this perspective, not the National Stock Exchange. Okay, this quarter, this much of EBITDA, this much of PAT. No, that's not the way to look at education.
Yes. And rightfully what Vishal mentioned before, and as an institution, any institution, why Anand, any institution you go to, that institution will provide you facilities. Institution will provide you the best infrastructure. It will provide you the best education. They provide you the best faculty. It is up to the student to make himself present and extract as much information and learning from the faculty or the student or from his cohort, from his peer groups, and then the student gets to grow. I mean, learning is beyond a classroom as well. So
Yes.
we have often seen, and all of us have worked in education, so it's the same classroom, the same faculty, the same learning, the same curriculum. Some student gets a placement for 8 lakhs per annum, some gets 12, some gets 10, some gets 15. And why is the difference? So it's only what the student has extracted from the entire from his entire learning curve, what Dr. Nigam mentioned as a learning curve. So what student has pulled out, that makes a huge amount of difference. His initiative taking makes a lot of difference in the process. Correct me if I'm wrong, both of you.
No, absolutely correct,
Absolutely
Apurva.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Education ना बंद दरवाजे की चाबी है.
हाँ जी, very true. Very true.
A right key can open 100 doors for you. A wrong key can close those doors for you. So
Absolutely.
please take it
Absolutely.
in from that sense that ये ऐसे आपको हमेशा, हम ये नहीं कहते कि आप अनंत में आइए या आप वहां जाइए. आप ये देखिए कि क्या एज एन एजुकेशन प्रोवाइड किया जा रहा है. क्या ये चाबी आपके लिए वो दरवाजा खोल सकती है जो अदरवाइज बंद है.
So true.
और कौन इतनी मेहनत कर रहा है, बिकॉज इट्स नॉट अबाउट the outcome in form of placement. It's about preparation in form of career services. हम ट्रेनिंग एंड प्लेसमेंट ऑफिस नहीं कहते हैं इसको, जहाँ पे हम फोर्थ ईयर में आएंगे
कंपनी हो जाते हैं।
जहाँ हम फोर्थ ईयर में आएंगे, बोलेंगे आप रेज्यूम दीजिए, बनाइए, और हमने 10 कंपनी को भेज दिया और आपका सिलेक्शन हुआ तो हुआ, नहीं हुआ तो नहीं हुआ। नहीं, we handhold you, we help you make that effective resume, we help you make that effective portfolio, we guide you through internship, we guide you through everything. We embrace AI at the campus, wherein you get unlimited access on certain platforms. So all this forms a combined path of education, So आपको सोचना है कि कौन सी चाबी आपको ढूंढना है, that is very important.
So true. Ajit, one question to you, and I think this would be interesting for all the people who've joined here today. You work a lot with global institutions, and you know what the global institutions are doing. So, what is that one trend you see globally in the design space that our students should be aware of and should be aware of early, so that they can pivot their career in that direction?
Okay. So one has to look at it from this the change from object to process. And if you really look at it, doing a system perspective is at a higher level than even management. Okay. And in management, you do things which are operational in nature, looking at more of efficiency or effectiveness or a combination of both. As a thinker using these techniques, you are at a level where you should start looking at the holistic picture, not siloed pieces. And
Okay.
it is this integrated system prepares you for a much more larger role, which means you have to take, okay, let's put it that way. Instead of just looking at the leaf, you take the forest view, and then you start looking at the complete landscape and says, I can do an intervention here, I can do an intervention here, I can do an intervention here with a particular purpose in mind. So that integration is something you need to look at. That's from a design perspective. But you also need to really, really look at what is happening on the technology side. Everything is getting integrated. There's so much of technology. Okay, as designers, I've seen this in NEFT. I've seen it in multiple other places that youngsters are scared of technology. Okay, from understanding that usage is fine, but it is also important to do a small little dive and try to understand why is this thing happening. When you and designers are experts in asking the why questions, and if you use the 5 why framework and keep on asking questions around that, you arrive at that. Okay, so technology, a systems thinking, looking at the forest, okay, looking at the larger landscape does help you. And this is where the world is going. Everywhere, whenever I have a discussion with my counterparts in some country, so the discussion revolves around, okay, portfolios. So what is the university or the leadership looking from a portfolio perspective? It is your individuality which can make a change. What it is not a cookie cutter thing. If you as an individual can contribute and make a change, people world over want you. Okay, and this will happen only if you take a forest perspective.
Very interesting. Actually, the portfolio question was the next question I was going to ask you, and you kind of almost covered it, which says that how can students build a strong portfolio which supports both career and higher education goals? So, can there be a holistic view of a portfolio, or does the portfolio differ if you want to go into two different areas?
A portfolio definitely differs. Okay. Because it has to have a purpose. When you're looking at higher education, people are looking at how do you integrate technology? How have you grown? How will you grow when you join a master's program? And when you look at an organization, that what is your ability to connect diverse things to arrive at this? It is not just the output. Okay, it is a process behind the output which is more important, and which is where your learning and individuality comes in. Now let me also jump to entrepreneurship from this perspective. In entrepreneurship, when we or any organization does funding, they never fund ideas, they fund people. And when I use the word people, the teams, can this team deliver? Fine, they fail in project one, but do these guys have the ability and the skill to move forward? So that's the thinking element, and that's where your portfolio approach comes in. Your individuality, one, and your ability to weave through difficult times, that has to stand out. The portfolio is not just a collection of pictures; it's your life story.
It's basically I would put it as if it's what has been the thought process behind whatever you have done. You know, what was the deep idea? What was your thought process? What is the research that has gone into the portfolio making? So, you know, even when organization come and they recruit students and they put a lot of emphasis on portfolio, you know, resume is one part of it, interviews another part of it. Largely the interviews are also driven basis on the portfolio. They go deep into why a particular idea or why a particular thought process you have worked upon. You know, they want to understand your. Yeah, I
please
think
continue. Please continue.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
please. Okay.
there's been an electricity
No, it's
shortage
an
here.
electricity glitch, it seems to be, yes. So they want to understand the thought process behind. They want to know, is this your original thought process idea and you have gone deep into it, or it is just borrowed from some AI tool? You know, what is that is happening is today's time is whether we have borrowed the idea or we have really worked on the idea. So to some level, yes, portfolio for higher education and industry is very different, but the essence remains the same for both. That whether you have really invested yourself into the idea or not.
The mindset. It's to understand the mindset.
Correct.
Yes, I'm not putting my camera on till I get some lights back in. But my next question is to Vishal. And Vishal, what does, I mean, can you share some skills or qualities which a design student should have to make himself more employable about their career options? How does a design student, what are the qualities he should either build within himself, or he should have within himself?
Two-way platforms. One, the strength that you learn, or skills that you learn in the process while you are at the university and studying, and some are imbibed, some that you carry along with you, which is largely the behavioral skills. So any organization that hires, we generally say that they hire in a T structure format. You know, they look at students having one horizontal skill set and a deep skill set into area of interest that they want to work in. So it's a T structure hiring that largely many organizations follow in today's time. However, when we say this, one thing that comes out very clear is the commitment level that a student brings along with him or her, the discipline, the clarity of thought, teamwork, and the communication, the way they articulate their portfolio, the way they articulate their resume, the way they articulate themselves and their reason why they want to be in a particular organization or an industry. That clarity is very, very important for any organization. They know that you are a fresher. They know that you come with some skill sets, you come with some knowledge, and you will be learning in the process over a period of next 18 months to 24 months or 3-4 years that you will be working with any organization or industry. But what they want to see is how you have spent your 4 years at the campus in terms of your learning curve, what skill set that you have developed, upskilled yourself or not, and whether you can articulate idea and express it rightly. And that's very important for a design student per se. For some stream, it's okay if you are not able to really very articulate your ideas. For example, coding, if you're a coder, you may not really have to articulate your ideas in front of a boardroom setup or in front of people. But for a designer, it is very important. They should be able to articulate their thought, their idea, and the reason behind that particular design. So yes, communication plays an important role, not necessarily the language skill, but a communication skill.
So on that, I just want to also tell our audience sitting here that to experience all of this and to meet Dr. Nigam and meet Vishal on campus, and of course meet other faculty members as well. We have an open house which is being organized on the Anant campus on the 23rd, and it's a full day activity where you come, you experience the campus, you stay over on campus, you see the hostel life, you experience multiple workshops, and you really get a hands-on idea of how your time at the Anant campus will be. So I encourage each one of you who's joined us for this webinar today to please register for the open house and join us for the open house, for you to get a better clarity about your career options and also to make an informed decision about where you want to do your studies further. On that note, I have a last question. We've, I think, overshot by a few minutes. And this question, I'll put it towards Dr. Nigam to understand. Design outcomes are always perceived as a little uncertain. Like we are talking here from when a student starts his career journey, he or she is bent on a certain career option, and through the journey maybe he changes his mind. A lot of times these things happen and we've seen it. So how would you respond to a student who's anxious about wondering whether should I get into entrepreneurship, should I get into a job, should I get into a higher education? What is the right steps, best practice that a student should have?
Let's look at the term outcome itself, and let's look at the three components which you outlined: entrepreneurship, higher education, and placements.
Placement.
If you really step back, aren't they part of the same thing? And you're learning, okay? On practice, placements is helping you to do that. At higher education level, you are getting into a deeper expertise of that. And again, here you're building a business around that. You should have that approach. Yes, as a young person, you will pivot. You will look at entrepreneurship today. You will look at higher education tomorrow. Then you will go back to placement and then come back to entrepreneurship. This is part of life. And if you are not in a position to explore this, then there is a challenge. Thereby, we took a conscious decision in the university to put all these three elements together in an integrated fashion in a single umbrella. So all three components are part of the same, and it becomes easy for you to navigate through. And you have to look at that underlying theme. Where do you want to go? Which is a broad direction. Maybe this particular path, a placement works for you. You will still want to explore. Okay, what's happening? Does it even make sense? I'm not sure. I want to get into product design. Maybe I want to combine product design with some kind of experiences and create an experiential design, including space in the travel and tourism industry, for which I need to have a deeper understanding of the travel industry. So maybe I do a bit of higher education. Maybe I decide not to do higher education. Let me do it a startup in the travel industry. Remember, it is the adaptability which counts, and the theme is that learning. And where you will actually end up, it will depend upon the direction. We need to integrate the three. Okay. Obviously, you cannot do the three together at a time. You will do one, you will jump to second, you will jump back to one. This is all right. Do not put pressure on yourself ki I have to choose. Okay, we will help you facilitate that process, but a conscious decision taken by our senior management is let the students have the flexibility to explore all the three. It's such a beautiful way of education in which you can, the human potential which you have comes from a combination of these three. There are no siloed paths to this. I mean, and I've seen
Agreed.
this happening. Such a beautiful way where kids have grown and have started ventures. They started the venture, then they sold off their venture. Okay, went ahead and joined the company, took up leadership roles, and did executive education. Look at that, all the three elements coming together.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No,
So
I'll add
on that,
one thing here, Apurva, just a quick one.
yeah.
You know, the interdisciplinary educational system that we follow takes care of a lot of such queries because you get to explore across. You know, idea of that interdisciplinary education is because that you get to explore way early. You know, and the beauty of design education is that it's comparatively pretty easy to pivot, you know, in terms of you can explore because you yourself are creative in thought, you know, and the whole education makes you more creative, and we support. So all three elements comes together. It's a win-win situation. And as Apurva rightly said, please come down to the campus, be a part of the open house. We'll give you a lot of insights in terms of when you see, you believe, you know, when you will see things happening right in front of you, when you will see how things have shaped up, when you see the students, we call it them as solutionaries on our campus, you know, we call them solutionaries. When you see the work that they have done, you'll get to know that, okay, what are the possibilities? And that is only by exploring. So come down
Absolutely.
and it will give you a lot of different, a very, very detailed idea about what we do.
I love to
On
have
that,
deep one-to-one discussions with each one of you, including parents. We can get on a one-to-one with them. I mean, in case there are opportunities to do that.
absolutely. On that note, Ajit and Vishal, thank you so much. We've overshot by about 10 minutes, and I'm sure a lot of
That's
people
okay.
have other plans as well. But it's been wonderful. It's been a delight speaking with both of you. And I think a lot of clarity our parents, our students would have got. And I will leave, despite our discussion, I will still leave the canvas open, and I'll request the participants, the parents and students, if they still have any queries, please reach out to the admissions team at Anant, and we will be happy to solve your queries. A lot, like Vishal mentioned, will get solved if you come for the open house on the 23rd. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you to all
Bye.
parents, students.
Bye.
Thank you, Apurva, Ajit.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Good evening.